Well, hi, everybody. I have to say I'm really happy for having the chance to share my work with you all and also to get to know the great work of the rest of the speakers. You are amazing. And I'm going to start talking a little bit about me. I studied fine arts, and I remember when I was at university, we had these naked models, women, that we had to sketch and paint all the time. And since I was a really good student, I wanted to get good grades and becoming a good artist, I painted them as told. After all, according to art history, that's what artists do all the time. They paint beautiful women lying down, all naked. So I guess I was just following some kind of tradition that has to do with art and beauty. But after doing that for 1,000 times, I started questioning what I was doing and why I was doing it. You can bet that was the end of my career as a proper artist. And I began questioning myself, Yolanda, why you always paint women in that same position? And I started getting interested not just by the aesthetic of the images, but for how do they work and what consequences they have in the viewers. Then I realized how important images are and how much they influence in human beings. Images are able to live in our memory for a very, very long time, and they mean a great deal through our education. They have done so for centuries of visual production in art history, but they still do today through images generated by mass media. We know who we are through images. We know how we have to behave, what's our place in society, what will make us happy one day, and more importantly, we find our life reference in the images that we see in cinema, cartoons, TV. These references, they only represent a very limited version of reality. Here we can see that women are just white, young, and thin. What happened with everyone else? Also, those references are usually associated to certain attitudes. In this case, these bodies are docile, submissive, available, a pattern that has been repeated through history up to these days. I think there is one particular media that has a greater impact in our current society: fashion. Fashion enables us to build our identity through what we wear, our appearance, and that's a positive thing. I mean, it plays an important role. But in its communication process, in advertisement, marketing, in the process of representing women, they not only repeat the same pattern that has been used by artists for ages, they also include a new feature: violence. Violence towards women. Women doesn't appear in a delicate horizontal position anymore. Now there is often a kind of aggression. Murder, rape, or sexual abuse have become some of the industry's favorite scenarios to represent women in a supposedly glamorous way in order to sell a product. Scenes are becoming more and more explicit, more and more sordid, and we consume them without realizing how important they are. How is it possible that someone lays out on the top of this image, golden blouse by House Entropia, 160 euros, without any kind of ethical conflict? How is it possible that the photographer, the editors, the model, the directors of the magazine, and the people who buys it could consider this image as something pretty or desirable? What are we missing out here? I decided to take this matter very seriously, and I arranged a meeting with a group of experts to hear their opinions about the latest campaigns of some top luxury fashion brands, and that's what they told me. A ver, cuéntanos qué ves en esta imagen.
Parece que está asustada. Como si fuera pobre. Que necesita un botiquín para curarse. O a lo mejor está emborrachada. Y parece que tiene una enfermedad. Porque el brazo lo tiene aquí y aquí está el hombro.
¿Y cómo crees que se siente?
Pues se siente sola.
Con miedo.
Sí. Y con hambre. Le preguntaría a mi madre que cómo podríamos ayudar a que estuviera unos días en alojo para no estar en la calle.
Ellos están tirando una chica a la basura
Y la señora se está riendo, no sé por qué, o le estaban ayudando o que estaban abusando de ella.
¿Qué hacéis? Que a mí no me gusta estar en la basura. Tiraros vosotros si queréis.
Hay una chica cagando. No sé, ¿no? Es una señora porque lleva tacones.
A lo mejor se ha peleado con alguien y ahora se siente culpable.
Se ha ido al baño para que se vaya el estrés.
Pues ahí parece como héroes.
Que está estudiando para ir a una universidad.
En realidad espías o del FBI felices.
Yo quiero ir a la universidad de Mayor. Un montón de señores peleándose.
Están así o así, con las piernas así.
Como si fuera presinca.
Son malas y las demás chicas las intentan detener para llamar a la policía.
Que pararon de pelearse porque podrían ser amigas y hablarlo. Es una empresa, me parece a mí.
Y creo que ese es su jefe.
Es una empresa muy buena porque veo que la gente está contenta, es muy bonita.
Yo el jefe. El jefe está así. A ver. Pues que se han peleado 3 chicas y una se ha desmayado.
Está como si estuviera llorando.
A lo mejor se está empezando a morir o algo así.
Se ha desmayado.
Ese es un hombre que está encima de una roca.
Hay una chica como puesta encogida. Está durmiendo y se ha quedado empanada.
Que se habrá tomado algunas pastillas que estaban con droga o cosas así, o que sea mala. Parece
Un superhéroe.
Parece como un superhéroe que está pensando en una cosa.
Que estaba cambiándose y entonces estaba fregado el suelo. No habían puesto el cartel y se resbaló.
A mí no me gustaría ser esa chica.
2 chicas muertas en la carretera porque la ha atropellado una furgoneta o algo. Si yo estuviera en esa situación que pasaría por al lado, la ayudaría a llevarla a un médico.
Está así, con los ojos cerrados como si se hubiera muerto o desmayado.
Y podría estar pasando hambre y se podría morir.
Que se anime y que no esté triste.
Well, thank you. Well, the message is very clear. Constantly seeing these kind of images have an aesthetic effect. they normalize violence towards women. The first time it might catch our attention, but seeing the same over and over again, it ends up becoming normal, even attractive, and that's a very dangerous thing. I'm flattered that this video had a great impact and coverage in media that has to do with fashion, and I think that's a positive thing. I'm very happy with that, because I think it's really important, it's crucial to launch this message within the industry and to reach those people who usually consume this kind of content. But my interest in fashion poses comes from far back, because at the end of the day, the pose is something that synthesizes the feminine or the masculine in an image. And I remember in fine arts, the pose was fundamental to study the human body. And looking through tons of magazines, of fashion editorials, I started picking tons of absurd poses in which women are look absolutely mental or idiotic. Or given impossible poses, in which we also look mental and idiotic. And I have to say, it's really hard to find men posing like this. You are not going to find them. And also in the last video, in Kids versus Fashion, it's true that I have chosen the images very carefully, but you're not going to find the same scenes when the main character is a man. One of the key factors that influence the way that we understand an image is the place where we see it. Seeing these images in a magazine, in a fashion website, already induced to a certain interpretation. But what will happen if we see these outside that context? Would we react the same way? I started working with a group of women of different ages and figures in order to take these poses outside that context into everyday life situations. And that's what happened.
I always wanted to be a model. I was obsessed with it. I mean, I read every fashion magazine from the time I was 12. And then I started doing little local bridal fashion shows in my hometown for about $20 a show. But I never thought I would do this. I always wanted to be a model.
And I'm really happy it's done really well. I love handbags. I've got a huge collection. I've always, girls just like handbags. I love the Ritz Club. It's like my old haunt. It's always been my favourite place to come. Really, the whole world, I think, if I was to have a party anywhere, would be here.
I always wanted to be a model.
You can't say whatever people think. I hope they like it.
Well, I've been with Omega for I think 14 years now, which is longer than my marriage. So really, Stephen and I joke that I am married to Omega. It's been a long and successful marriage. I think that, I started out just doing an ad campaign for them, and just evolved into, I think they actually kind of coined the phrase ambassadorship with my relationship with them, because it wasn't just being a spokesperson, it was really being a brand ambassador, and what does that mean? And I think that at the time, Omega was so
I
well
always
known,
wanted to be a model.
Watch and all these other Seamaster or James Bond, but they didn't really have a place for the women's fashion watches, and I kind of helped bring that to light. And now I'm joined by Kidman and James, so I mean, it's great.
I always wanted to be a model.
I've been involved with the Constellation for years, and in this new incarnation of the classic Constellation, this is a more modern, contemporary look at that watch. So there's, of course, the traditional elements are there, the claws, but they're a little bit heavier, they're thicker. The bracelets are thicker, so it gives it a more contemporary look. There's a little more gold on the dial. So there's, again, you'll recognize it as a Constellation, but it's the name of it improved.
I always wanted to be a model.
was such a big part of the Olympics, of the official time cameras, we really had a lot of access and were able to
I always
participate in so
wanted
many
to be a model.
events there. But I've ridden elephants in India. I went to the premiere of Fantastic Mr. Fox, George Clooney's new movie last night here in London. So there's so many really memorable events, and because Omega is truly an international company, they have a great infrastructure everywhere we go.
I always wanted to be a model. I always wanted to be a model. I always wanted to be a model. I always wanted to be a model.
Thank you. After launching Poses, a good number of TV shows, websites, and media that has to do with fashion shared the video. And I was fascinated by that because I think it gave me a kind of hope. I thought maybe it's possible to change something. And I learned something with this project about my own work, that if I wanted to reach people who usually consume mass media, I had to speak the same language, and I also had to be in the same channels. And here it is. I was the only Spanish artist to be in the top 10 of the best fashion videos of the world. Right there between Dior and Lanvin was my criticism of their poses. So I'm really happy with this. I have to confess I have this screenshot framed and hanging on my living room, you know, as one of my greatest achievements. But something even more fascinating happened then. Suddenly, dozens of anonymous women sent me their own versions of poses that they found in magazines. And I really fell in love with that. And that taught me another lesson, that people is eager to participate. They want to be part of the works. We live in a society where everything is interactive, and we don't settle anymore for just looking at something. We want to be part of it. We want to be creative too. So since then, I always that make a new project, a new action, I launch an open call in my social networks to ask for people to participate. Also, a good number of schools and universities sometimes invite me to do workshops and work with the students. And for me, as an artist, that's a very, very amazing thing, because I think education is the key to change the world. So for me, that's incredible. And also sometimes some newspapers or magazines invite me to write articles about gender and consumerism. And in Spain, I'm columnist at the Huffington Post, and I write about the representation of women in media. And today, I continue receiving absurd poses from everywhere. So I have created this website, strikethepost.org, in which people can upload poses, humiliating or absurd poses, and they can also make their own versions of them. So you are invited to use this website wherever you want. And I love it because I love to work with humor. I think humor is a very good way to make a critique of something, so I try to work with humor. And every time I give a talk or a conference, I used to ask to the audience if they want to strike a pose. So would you like to make a collective pose all together right now? Yes? This is the absurd pose. So you can all stand up, take a back. You have a guide here. This is a guy making the same, so it's very simple. Yes, put the back. Out the leg. Amazing, amazing. You did a great job. Well, I would like finish introducing you to my new project. It's an ongoing collaborative photographic project, and it's called Little Black Dress. And it deals with the stereotypes of the representation of women in media, you know, white, young, thin, S size. So I have picked this little black dress from a very well-known brand. And I'm not going to say, but you can read it. With this same dress, I'm taking pictures to show and celebrate the diversity of women, women of different sizes, races, ages, in order to create new images more diverse and more sensitive with the real world. All these women are posing proud of their bodies because I don't want any more images of dead, weak, or submissive women. I want us proud, strong, and fearless. So I invite you, every woman that wants to participate, to take part. You can send me an email, and you will be very welcome, you and your friends, to participate in my project. I will come back very soon, and we can make an appointment, and you can take part of it. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.